Hello and welcome back to another Warlords of Draenor video. This time we're going to be talking about the high-end PvE, so that's stuff like raiding and that sort of thing. And this is going to be split into a few different topics, with the first being Mythic, the second being Social and Flex, then I'm going to talk about Dungeons, and finally some of the loot rewards. So, Mythic. Well, they said Mythic would have taken more resources to maintain the 10 and 25 structure for the top 1% of players, so the decision was made to fix the size to 20 in order to just focus more on raid design for this difficulty level, rather than balancing the two sides. You see, there was often a problem where the two sides were not at all balanced. Some fights would be easier in 10, some would be easier in 25, and they even said there were some mechanics that had to be scrapped on account of 10-player difficulty. So for Mythic, they decided just to merge it down to the 20-player limit, so it was a little bit smaller than 25 and a bit bigger than 10. They also said that the Mythic lockout is boss-based static ID, so nothing has changed from the current heroic lockout system. They also said it would have been nice to give Mythic difficulty unique art for armor sets, but at the end of the day, the time required to do this would just be too much to justify. And I think that is fair enough because it is only for the top 1%, and honestly, for that top 1%, the kind of thing that they are interested in, and, you know, as someone who has, I suppose, dipped my toes in heroics, you don't care about the item level, mainly it's what you care about is you've actually killed a heroic, or in this case a mythic, that's what matters. So next, this is just a little bit of talk about smart healing. They said that it has a place, but it might just be good to make some things a little bit less smart. Most heals could just prefer people who are injured rather than at full health, rather than just picking people at the lowest health. This is just to encourage a little bit more decision making. They feel that a lot of healing is in some regards done for you. Now, I know that a lot of boss mechanics have got heavy raid damage, so I'd assume that those healing abilities that deal with that sort of thing are still going to be smart. Now let's talk about social and flexible raiding. So the team said that they want to make it easier to find like-minded players to play with, and that's why they're giving us advance notice on the raid change, the raid size changes. Just in case you don't know, the raid size changes are that flexible difficulty is now gone, and Raid Finder's been tweaked a little bit, Heroic's been tweaked a little bit, and they've added a new difficulty level called Mythic. So, from the ground up, you have Looking for a Raid, which is essentially similar to it as it is today. It's still a match-made queue. The only difference is that if people drop out of that, so say you only have 20 players left, it will scale the bosses down to make sure your group has less downtime. Then Flex has been renamed as Normal. Yep, that's a thing, and it's scalable from 10 to 25 players. Heroic, Normal has now been renamed to Heroic, with Heroic being flexible from 10 to 25 players, and it's the same difficulty as Normal is in Mists of Pandaria. They have then on top of this added a new difficulty level called Mythic, which is 20 players only, and is the equivalent of Mists of Pandaria Heroics. So, there you go. Now, they also said that the game has a raid browser that nobody uses, so in Warlords of Draenor, they will be expanding the support for this, including killing world bosses, doing achievements, and finishing something like Shadowmourne, or essentially any other activity. It seems like you can basically just put an advert out there and say, hey, looking for a group to do this content, who wants to join me? And then it will have this cross-realm system that people can sign up to do groups with like each other. And the cool thing about this is it promotes a lot of cross-realm play, but more importantly, it encourages people to do pugs rather than complete random matchmaking, and it just encourages people to band up, stick together, and actually make friends. And I think that really is a fantastic change. They also said that the new Flex loot model will work similar to how Master Loot does today, but the number of drops will scale based on the amount of people who are eligible for loot. The personal system won't be removed, you'll just have to opt into it. Now, this opt-in thing essentially means that if you're doing a pug, then okay, you opt in. But if it's a guild run doing, say, a heroic or a normal, then you can just have the regular loot. And the way the regular loot works is that, say if you have 10 people, then you have a 100% chance of dropping 2 bits of gear. But say you have 12 people, in that case you would have an 80% chance of getting 2 bits of gear and a 20% chance of getting 3 bits of gear. This way, on average, the amount of gear per player stays the same. This system will scale up until the point where there are no breakpoints, so if you have like 20 people, then it might be a 100% chance of 4 bits of loot or something like that. Of course, the numbers I say now are not representative of what's in the game or anything like that, they're really just off the top of my head to give you a decent example. Now, they also said that the whole renaming and rejangling of the difficulties was done because they said it felt odd to call the lowest difficulty something other than normal. At the end of the day, what most people do is normal. And right now, most people do flex, so it makes sense to just call flex normal, because it's what's normal to most people, and that just makes sense. So, yeah, makes good sense to me. Normal in 6.0 is going to be, of course, roughly as difficult as Flex is today. So yeah, good stuff. Now let's talk about dungeons. So the team is talking about scaling up the difficulty of the launch dungeons with each new tier of dungeons that are added during the expansion so that you don't have to run the 2 new ones over and over again and get burnt out. Now the problem, this really stems from Cataclysm, right? And remember they added the 2 troll dungeons in Cataclysm, and that was cool, we got some new high level dungeons, but the problem is, they were the only 2 dungeons that people ever did, because that's where the loot was from. So this way they'd be scaling the dungeons up and up and up. Of course they have scaling tech, so that's not a problem, it's very easy to do now. The only problem I would imagine, well, I'd hope that it scales up depending on your item level, so if you have an item level of above a certain amount, then you'll get the scaled up version. That means that once people hit level 90, of course, they will just be doing the regular version of the dungeon as intended at launch, so honestly I think that's quite cool. As for scenarios, they said that they worked out quite well, and they will be present in 6.0, but there are no plans. No solid plans as to what they will be, and heroic scenarios also worked out quite well too. For loot rewards, they said that the team talked about just having Valor and Conquest as Justice wasn't useful, and they also haven't decided whether they will keep the Valor upgrade system as we have it today. At the end of the day, with gear being augmented through through say getting extra sockets, or getting these augmented tertiary stats, is there really any use for Valor upgrades? No, I don't think so, especially since Warforged is still going to be in the game. So yeah, I think that's fair enough. They also said the bonus rolls will continue in Warlords of Draenor, and LFR bonus rolls do not, say, impact your heroic bonus roll. It seems like that stuff's all separate, so it's nice to get that confirmed. So basically they said that anyone who does say that they rolled 15 times and won nothing is actually flat out lying, because it will ramp up to a 100% chance. They also said that they're not really sure how we will attain our bonus rolls at max level, but that there will be a way. So that's it, covering all of the different Q&A questions that we got during BlizzCon. I hope that perhaps cleared up some questions you may have had. Stay tuned to the channel for all the main BlizzCon coverage. Of course, the con's over and most of the coverage is done, but I still have all the other Blizzard games to talk about. And then, of course, all the really fun Warlords of Draenor speculation that there will be coming over the next few weeks. So, please like if you like, subscribe if you want to see more, and I'll see you next time.